Week 11 of the fantasy football season. And here's a few kickers I look to start this week. The first guy, Dustin Hopkins of the Cleveland Browns. So Dustin Hopkins, one of the better kickers in fantasy football this season, and a player who wasn't drafted in many fantasy leagues. So right now, this Brown team, they're putting up a lot of points over the last month of the season. Dustin Hopkins is getting many opportunities. And 4 out of the last 5 games, he's had double-digit fantasy points. Week 7 at the Colts, 22. Week 8 at Seattle, 6. Week 9 versus Arizona, 10. Week 10 at Baltimore, 10. And now here in Week 11, a good matchup versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. That a bend but don't break type of defense, and they give up the 12th most fantasy points to kickers on the season. So this week here with a division matchup and a Steelers defense, like I said, that's bend but don't break. I think Hopkins once again gets at least 2 or 3 field goal opportunities and a few extra points. The next start, Riley Patterson of the Detroit Lions. So the last few weeks, Patterson's starting to become one of the better kickers in fantasy football. And obviously, he's on a high-powered offense with this Lion team where they're putting up almost 30 points per game on most weeks. So the last 2 weeks for Patterson, Week 8 versus Vegas, 17. And Week 10 at the Chargers in that shootout, he had 12 fantasy points. So Week 11, a great matchup. Lions going back home. They versus the Chicago Bears. They give up the 5th most fantasy points to kickers on the season. And we know this Bear defense is one of the worst defenses in the league. So right now with a home game indoors where obviously it's great kicking conditions and you don't got to deal with anything like the wind, the rain, snow, whatever the case may be, that's a plus, obviously. And also a Chicago Bear defense that really don't stop anyone, where I think Patterson will have many opportunities to at least kick extra points, worst case scenario. But I think he'll have another good game this week. The next start, Harrison Butker of the Kansas City Chiefs. So Harrison Butker this season, it's been a great year for him and this Kansas City Chiefs team. Once again, 7-2 on the year coming off the bye week. I know Butker was a little bit banged up, but now it's the stretch time of the season and it's a matchup versus the Philadelphia Eagles that are a bend but don't break defense at times. So this is going to be a shootout, Super Bowl rematch, obviously Week 11, Monday Night Football with this Kansas City Chiefs team with the Philadelphia Eagles coming to town. And Harrison Butker's been an accurate kicker. He's got a big boot, 55-yard range, definitely a possibility each week for him to kick. So this week in a big game with the Super Bowl rematch, and pretty much the best team in the league, it's for Philly 8-1 and Kansas City 7-2. I think Harrison Butker comes through and has a few field goals in this one, and he's definitely a start this week. The next start, Greg Zuerlein of the New York Jets. So he's pretty much 50% of the offense is Greg Zuerlein this season. This Jet team having a lot of trouble finding the end zone, and obviously it showed with historically bad numbers, but Greg Zuerlein this season, he's had some monster games with 3 games of 14 or more fantasy points. So the last few weeks, Week 8 at the Giants, 7. Week 9 versus the Chargers, 8. And Week 10 at the Raiders. In that one, he hit 4 field goals with 16 fantasy points. So this week here, matchup at division rival, the Buffalo Bills, where we know this Bill defense is all banged up this season with a lot of injuries. But this Jet offense, they just can't score touchdowns on anyone. It seems like 39 drives now without scoring a touchdown. And I think Greg Zuerlein, once again, is going to be busy in this game and will put up good fantasy numbers. And the 5th and final kicker, I look to start Evan McPherson of the Cincinnati Bengals. Evan McPherson, it's been a quiet year for him for the most part, but he's pretty much been a consistent kicker, anywhere from 7 to 12 fantasy points weekly we've seen from him. Week 8 at San Francisco, 9. Week 9 versus Buffalo, 5. And Week 10 versus 11 fantasy points. So this week here, it's going to be another grinded-out matchup, Thursday Night Football at division rival, the Baltimore Ravens. This Raven team gives up the 18th most fantasy points to kickers on the season. And this game, rightfully so, could come down to both kickers, with Justin Tucker and McPherson, 2 of the top 5 kickers, in my opinion, in the league. So right now, he's in a high-powered offense. Opportunities over the last few weeks as Joe Burrow's been healthier and his offense has been driving down the field more. So once again, I have McPherson as a start. It's a few kickers I look to start here for Week 11 of the fantasy football season.